What's going on, everyone? Dana here for Naang Boots, and I want to talk a little bit about leather and the different types of leathers that get used in boots, because it's not just one type of leather that we put in boots. The uppers are made for something completely different than the midsole or the insole, the welts, the toe puff, the heel counter, the liner. All that is different. So I want to talk about that just a little bit. And I'll start with talking about the uppers and what we use. This is our upper leather. You can see it's quite thick. I'll use one of the lighter ones here. So our upper leather is about 3 to 3.5 millimeters. This one's kind of beat up. It's been in my bag for a bit, but this is very, very thick. It's a little bit heavier. And in a lot of boots, you're going to see chrome tan leather, and then the other kind of really popular leather you'll see for uppers is a dual tanned or a dual process leather, where it's chrome tanned and then it's finished in a veg tan vat, which is what our leather is as well. So our leather, our upper leather, is dual stage. So it's started or it's fully tanned in a chrome tan vat, and then it's finished in a veg tan vat to give it some of that quality that you would get from veg tan, but not 100%. Now, occasionally you will see leather that is fully veg tan used for uppers. We don't do that. Some brands do that. It makes an amazing patina leather, especially if you want like monster patina, like a veg tan is the way to go for sure. But it's very stiff, very hard to break in. You don't get a lot of the qualities that make a chrome tan or a dual stage, or dual process leather really nice. Here's some others that are dark brown, and you can see how thick it is. Now, we use really thick leather because ruggedness and durability is super important to us at Naang Boots, but that doesn't mean it's the only thing that's good. The trade-off, and like anything, there's trade-offs, is that you end up with a boot leather or a boot that's much heavier when you use a very thick, substantial 3.5 millimeter thick leather like this. You can see how thick that is. So when you use a thick leather like this, yeah, the boot is much heavier, but it's more durable. So that's the trade-off. That ruggedness that you get from that heavier leather is the trade-off you're making in exchange for that. Now, a little bit thinner, the boot gets lighter, right? You can get, much thinner, you can shape it better, it gets lighter. It just depends on what quality you want in the boots. One's not better than the other. And honestly, the tanning and processing of the leather does a lot, and the type of leather, the density of the grain does a lot to, to add to that ruggedness or that suppleness. Now, next up, we'll talk about our midsoles and our insoles. Because we do a hand-welted boot at Naang, we use really thick veg tan leather. You can see how stiff this is. And this is what makes up our insoles, where we carve the holdfast into and hand-welt it. And then our midsoles is this same leather. So you get that really stiff, really rugged, construction that our boots are known for. Now you could go thinner on this. It makes it more flexible. Some companies, especially in the zero drop space, they use a rubber or a composite midsole because it adds more ground feel, more flexibility, less break-in. Now you do have to break this in, but I think it ends up, you get a much tougher, again, more rugged, stronger boot. This is heavier than a composite would be. This is quite substantial leather, this really thick veg tan that we use in the midsoles. Now, in our toe puff and our heel counter, we might use something similar to this veg tan, which is still a little thick, but it's got some flexibility to it. And this is what helps us give that structure to the toe and to the heel with our fully veg tan heel counter and toe puff. Again, some like more commercial boots might use a composite here or some type of fiberboard or canvas with some glue. We like to use the full leather. We think it adds, one, to the heritage style and construction of the boot, which is what we do at Naang, but also it's a better way to make it in our opinion. And then we use some of this really thin veg tan leather. This is super thin, super flexible. Anywhere within the inner structure of the boot that we think needs a little bit more body, a little bit more structure, we might use some of this. Now this is so thin and so flexible, this wouldn't really cut it for our toe puff or our heel counter, but something similar, a little bit thicker than this would be perfectly fine. And then our welts, again, our welts are made from very stiff veg tan that we then mold around. We split it, and that's what lets us do that fully hand welted construction, 360 hand welt with the storm welt, and we make our welts from really thick, stiff veg tan leather. And that's really all the leather that goes into the boot. Oh, our liner as well. If you have a fully lined boot, all of the boots from Naang are fully lined, and we use a very thin, supple chrome tan leather as our liner. And then in our heel cup, we'll turn it out and we'll use the rough out of that leather so that you get a little bit more friction there in the heel, and it holds it steady so you're not getting as much rubbing as you're breaking the boot in and you're wearing it in, and then that rough out will smooth over time and you end up with a softer, more supple heel. But yeah, that's the different types of leather. I just wanted to kind of go into that. And we do get a lot of questions about the leather and the different types. And there's a bunch that go into it. Again, we are all leather construction. And there's different types, different styles of leather and different tanning processes. And it adds to it. And I think it makes a really unique boot, and it makes it so you can enjoy it more when you understand that there's all these different types of leather and they all have a different role and they all have different qualities. And that really adds to the quality of the boot. And again, everything that we do is a trade-off. It doesn't mean that it's the best. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. It just, this is how we choose to do it. Because someone else decides to do it a different way doesn't mean it's better or worse. We do hand welted, but there are a lot of companies that make amazingly rugged boots that do stitch down. And I think that's fantastic. There are companies that do dress boots and they might do Blake stitch or they might do Goodyear welt, and that's just a different approach to it. And there's trade-offs to each of these. So again, chrome or dual process for your uppers, and pretty much everything else is going to be veg tan except for your liner, which is going to be a chrome tan with a little cup of rough out on the heel. That's about it. Let me know down in the comments if you guys have any questions about the different leathers that we use and the different types of construction. See you in the next one.